Thanks for joining us. It's Dylan here with my co host Greg, and we have our guest Robin Hardrick joining us to go over her AI art exhibits and her history as an AI artist, what she's been up to, and really excited to highlight all the work and share this with the audience. So, hey, Robin, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. First of all, thank you both, Dylan and Greg. I'm super excited to be here today.
Totally. So, just maybe give the audience a 2 to 3 minute elevator speech on who you are, what you're up to, and then we'll go from there, maybe.
For sure. So, as Dylan said, I'm Robin Hardrick. I'm actually the founder of the Hardrick Museum. I create digital art using artificial intelligence. And my company has recently moved into taking that same digital art that we've created and now transferring it to clothes, thus creating a wearable art clothing line movement.
Very cool. And so, you're using AI art. Tell us a little bit more about what that means as far as the process. What does it actually mean to use AI to make art?
Yeah, for sure. So my brother and I, Damian Harris, he actually goes by King Damian Lewis. He is my partner in this venture. And so what we do, he and I have both been creating art now for about 3 years. We actually started during COVID. I fancied myself a day trader, and I was trading. Um I blew up a couple of accounts. But the silver lining is when I was doing some research, I saw that Christie had successfully auctioned off a Beeple NFT collection called 5,000 Days. And that was back in 2021. And that went for $69 million. So of course I was super excited about that. And I was so fascinated by it. I allowed myself to go down this rabbit hole of research into the world of NFTs, which eventually led me to AI art. And I was just completely floored to learn about the advancements of machine learning, where you could actually text prompt to photo, and you just kind of decide what it is you want to see. And then you put those words into a machine. It'll use an algorithm to create exactly what would kind of like an image of what you have in your mind. For me, that was just completely fascinating that I could create art that way. So we just started experimenting with it. And it, again, like I said, this has been 3 years. And 3 years later, we've gone from, while we are still making art, we're now transferring that art to clothes through a process called sublimation printing.
So you were really early because this craze has really caught on within the
Yes.
past couple of months. You've been active very long, so you've been an early adopter. And tell us a little bit more about what it means. So you're prompting images, and
Hmm.
what is your advantage over someone else when it comes to making art? I think the common criticism is, okay, anybody can type in some words and make something that looks kind of cool. But when you start to review what people are making, there's a clear difference in quality or attention to detail from each person, but each person is doing something different, right? And so
Hmm.
tell us, how do you answer that question about, or maybe it's a criticism
Hmm.
that it's just not the same because it's typing instead of painting.
Well, the way I answer that criticism is then they should do it so that they can see for themselves, right? And I say that confidently because everything that we created was not good. Like, we started during COVID where I could work from home. So a lot of the stuff that we created in the beginning was just complete trash, and it was okay because it was fun, right? It wasn't meant to make money. It was meant to find another way to release like the time that, to use up a lot of the time that we had. And again, it was just enjoyable. And then somewhere down the line, we just kept doing it and kept doing it. And not almost like a little obsessive because we were so determined to crack the code, and we did. And we ended up creating our own algorithm within an algorithm to the point where it's almost automatic. We know exactly what to say, exactly which words to use to just maximize the output of what we're creating. I encourage people to try it, because it's just fun. It's a stress reliever. And so I actually encourage people try it and have your hand in it. But I'm telling you, it's not as easy as it seems. But you should definitely try it and see for yourself. I would never discourage anyone from that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I like to compare it to is the advancement of photography
Right.
compared to people doing portraits and stuff, where everybody's like, oh, anybody can take a picture, anybody can grab, nowadays, everybody can grab your phone and take a picture, but to actually make something good and repeatable and having a style,
Right.
that's what you have to develop. And that's kind of what I like to compare AI art to, at least right now, is that it's really about developing your own style and how do you make that and what do you do on top of just doing the prompt. I guess that's kind of my next question too, is what else do you do after you get that raw input from the program? Do you do any sort of enhancements or anything else on other programs?
I do. Depending on the output that I receive, I will use Photoshop just to clean it up a bit, clean up some of my edges, clean up maybe some of the images that I don't want. Because that's the thing with AI is you know what you put in the prompt. You don't necessarily know everything exactly what you're going to get back. So sometimes, and that's the reason why I said everything isn't perfect. And in the beginning, a lot of the work we did was just like, what is this? But we have gotten to a place of I'm just a creative anyway. So I know how to use Photoshop and Illustrator. Like 20 years ago, I would know that dates me.
Well, I
Like,
think what's great about that is you hit on something important because there was this paradigm shift with the advent of Photoshop. A
yeah,
lot of art did become digital, and now that we've been a while since that has happened, several decades, right? We don't even question the digital art is art. But then it's
right.
this new thing where it's a new version of that. I think it's an iteration on that concept of what is art. Well, if somebody's expressing themselves uniquely to generate a reaction, a unique reaction, or just a thought provoking piece using this technology, is it not art? I mean, the same person could type the same thing in, but it's not going to show it when you're iterating over and over and over. It's not going to be the same output. So I think that really hits on, at least in my mind, once I started thinking it like that, it really hit on this concept of art. So for me, it's been really fascinating to watch. Robin, you've been working on this and you got the exhibit. You've actually been taking your output and setting up galleries
Right.
where you're advertising it. And most people tell us, I mean, do people, when they come to your galleries and you have a physical representation of the pictures,
Yes.
do people know before they get there that it's how this is made, or do they just assume that you're a conventional artist?
So they assume that it's just completely digital art, which technically it is. It depends. Like some of the guests that come because they have history with me, they know I've used AI. Some of them do not. One of the cool things that we do is, again, with our exhibitions, for example, even with Nordstrom, we always do it in person. And with the in person, we do a 4 hour in person where we just take the time to talk to the visitors and the guests about AI and let them know exactly what we're doing. We did have some really cool feedback at the Nordstrom Black History Month exhibit here in Chicago, where a person wanted to purchase a piece of the artwork, but they wanted the original. And it literally took us about 3 or 4 minutes to get down to what the gentleman was saying. And I was like, yeah, you want me to print it again? And he's like, no, no, I want the one that you hand painted. And I was like, oh, so a part of me felt a little bit of oh man, like, and then I told him, I was like, there is no hand painting. I was like, this is it. But then that floored him. He was like, "But it has the lines in it. It looks like you literally took," and I was like, "Yeah, I created it to look like that." And so that what I just said is a part of that answers a bit of the previous question that you asked. Well, what sets you apart? And when people say, "Oh, that's easy, anyone can do it." Well, the fact that I knew to include the words to make it look like an actual painting, that someone who has a trained eye can see my work and automatically assume that this has to be an original painting. There has to be an original that you used to create this digital from. And it's like, no, sir, this is the original. And that I did sell a print of that particular one, by the way. So
Wow,
yeah, that was
awesome.
pretty cool.
Yeah, so you're taking inspiration from other artists, and you
Hmm.
use that inspiration. In some of your exhibits, you're going for a certain theme, and so it could be influenced, but not necessarily a copy, right?
Right.
You're very transparent about your influences. So tell us what influences and what inspires your designs.
You know what? I was about to touch on this a little bit earlier. I've always been a creative. Maybe about a decade ago. If you talked to me a decade ago, I was making beats and doing music. I had a full studio. I used to host brunches, these swanky brunches here in Chicago. And then like I said, during COVID, I started trading a little bit and then I really got into NFTs and so what goes into it is just like life. I am world traveled. Enjoy having different experiences, and I'm a fan of beauty. So I just come up with different things. You know what it is? Everything that you type is really an expression of the world that you would like to see. So I just create the images and I do my best to put the energy out into the world to help create the world that I want to be a part of and a world that I want to see.
So what do you use to make your art? What have you experimented with? How did you discover the tool that you're using, the tools? Walk us through like your workflow and how
Right.
you design this.
One of the things that my brother and I do and how we experiment, initially when we started creating art, we actually just started with playing around with photos that we had, like just photos that we would take from our trips and, just walking through the neighborhood. And then we just put a crap ton of filters on those, right? We experimented a lot with glitch art, which is actually making us a surgeons now. So we have a bunch of that work, but we had put it to the back burner because I was like, it's okay. Like, but the reason why I gave you that background is um, from that, we moved into working with Starry AI, Mid Journey, and Dolly. And so the cool thing about those is because, of course, as more and more availability and apps came online or opportunities, it was, well, let's see what this one is doing. And let's see what that app is doing. And then with Starry AI, you can actually upload a photo. So I would create something in Mid Journey or Dolly and then upload it into Starry AI just to see what I would get. And so that's how we would come up with, or how we are continuing to come up with so many of these cool designs that we have, because it's not just Mid Journey or not just Dolly. I'm actually fusing two or three different apps to create these things.
Yeah, I think that's cool. It's kind of, you're taking it that next step. You're not just doing the first, you're doing that
Right.
first iteration and then taking it to another iteration and then even editing it further to make it something that really, it's not just that raw output that you're getting, but it's actually
Right.
your work that you've created.
And that's how you know you really love something, because my brother and I we were actually just talking about this the other day. The best part of this is is creating. But that only takes so long. Like, the best part of it is I am the first one to see it. And for me, that is so amazing. No one else in the world has seen this but me. That is the most amazing feeling ever. But then that's fleeting, because we've done it often. We've done it so much. We know, and we're good critics of our own work. We know what looks good, what doesn't, and if we don't, we criticize each other, right? Like, dude, this is trash. But that is the best part of it, and that moment is fleeting. It is, so which means that what we're doing right now had to be bigger than ourselves, and it became a, wait a minute, this is the future, and we have this really cool opportunity to be a part of this, right? We were around like when the dot-com bust happened, right? And I was like, we're talking web 3, we're talking NFTs, we're talking machine learning. It's not going anywhere right now. There are some people, like you mentioned earlier, who there are critics of it, and that's okay. But the truth is that, like I said, machine learning isn't going anywhere, because all it's doing is correcting itself. It's getting better and better and better. And eventually people will just live with it. And that's what excites me. I accept the critics, I hear them, but we keep moving forward because we know that's the direction that the world is going in. And when you look at the art, it's beautiful. Like, you can dislike how we create it, but you can't deny what you're seeing. You can't say, "Oh no, and it doesn't look good." No, it looks amazing. You just don't like how I made it, and that's okay. And eventually, over
Yeah.
time, it'll come.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
And there will still be people who paint
Hmm.
and do things artistically. This is just another version of it. And perhaps in a world, if much of the art that we see it becomes AI generated, there will still be this appreciation, I think, for traditional measures.
For sure. And I'll give you a prime example. So I have a very good friend of mine, Sam Kirk. She's a multidisciplinary artist. Sam is completely badass. Can I say that? Is that cool? Okay.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
she's awesome. When I had my exhibit up at South Space, it was on the University of Chicago campus, I asked Sam to come and help me, and she did. And we had a whole discussion about AI art and how it affects her. She's been working, I mean, she's been at this for 12 years now. And she actually was commissioned to do work by Disney. And she still worked with me, an AI artist, because for two reasons. One, like she said, she understands it's the future. And then two, on my end, I recognize that Disney, what they commissioned her to do, I can try, right? I can go in there and put some prompts in and hand it to them, but they might be looking for something so specific that only she can paint, that only she can create, that she physically has to paint that. And that's where, until it may I don't AI art is not there yet. And that's not saying it won't get there, but to date it's not there.
Well, I think one of the cool things about that too is someone like a traditional artist could use AI also to
Yes.
enhance their work. It's another tool in the belt. Like, it doesn't have to be the be all end all, but like someone who already has that skill, they could, like you said, they could put in their art
Right.
to these programs and have the AI iterate on it and do different stuff with it and just really supercharge their own art themselves. Like, and that's, I think, something that a lot of these artists are going to have to do in order
Right.
to keep up with the advances in AI.
She's a photographer. That's what she's doing. So once she found out how we were creating art, she was like, "Oh, okay, I'll try it out." And so she took some of her photography and uploaded, and now she loves it. Like you say, it's an enhancement, it's a tool. That's all.
Yeah, I could see a world where you have an entire department of people. You have maybe a couple of artists generating
Mhm.
the initial concepts, and then
Right.
you have a team of some people processing that, creating a bunch of output for animation or design work. So I think like the commercial purposes, the commercial use cases, you could have a lot of output for a cheaper input, but still maintain the core integrity of the initial the concept of whatever's trying to be achieved.
Mhm.